Let me give you a little bit of history of the English language now. There are three core languages of origin we want to think about today for our study. The Anglo-Saxon lens is the first. The Angles and Saxons were tribes that traveled to England, and they brought with them some other cultures as well, like the Frisians, a good deal of our Old English words. Many of the most common words in English are derived from Anglo-Saxon or Old English. The epic poem Beowulf was written in Old English. Modern English words from Anglo-Saxon dominate Tier 1 in Beck, McEwen et al.'s three-tier model. They are common words that native English speakers will learn the meanings of, incidentally, without instruction. Anglo-Saxon derived words are typically the simpler way to say something. For example, turn on from the Anglo-Saxon, as opposed to activate from the Latin. Although they're easy to define and use in speech, words derived from Anglo-Saxon are often challenging to read and spell. This is because a number of them, like of and does and from, have spellings not reflected in their pronunciations. 1 and 2, which we will examine in a later segment of this course, are of Anglo-Saxon origin. Now we're going to talk about the Latin lens. It's amusing that the majority of words that make up English vocabulary aren't even originally from English. Instead, they're borrowed from other languages. English takes more words from Latin, some by way of the French, than any other language. Many of the high-impact Tier 2 words are derived from Latin. Words of Latin origin typically have one base and can have multiple prefixes and suffixes. A lot of the prefixes were at one time prepositions in Latin, and their meanings in current English words reflect this fact. So, the circum in circumstantial means around. The OB in object means against. And the TRANS in transport means across. Final stable syllables TION and TURE and IVE appear in Latin-based words like nation, adventure, and active as well. Practice with commonly appearing features in Latin-based words can help with students' awareness of the parts in words, a skill that is useful for spelling, decoding vocabulary, and, as a result, comprehension. Many English words derived from the Greek, often involving science, school, and the arts, would typically fall into Tier 3 in Beck and McEwen's model because they are specialized and domain-specific. A great deal of science and math terminology in particular derives from the Greek. Instructors teaching in these areas may find a study of Greek morphemes fruitful as a means of enhancing study of a particular subject. Certain orthographic or spelling features are common in English words of Greek origin. For example, ph to say f, as in phobia, phonics, and typhoon, is Greek. Y to replace an I is another feature of Greek-based words, as in mythology, cyclone, gym, and type. When ch says k, it also suggests a word of Greek origin, as in school, monarch, and orchid. The reader will see a number of such words on any page of a science or mathematics text. Students will find them in psychology, health, agriculture, and history texts as well. 60% of the English language is comprised of words of Latin and Greek origin, but that number rises to 90% when you just look exclusively at the specialized vocabulary of science and school. I want to take a look at a good word of Greek origin to think about these parts. For a long time, I taught 9th grade American literature, and we read Richard Wright's Black Boy. This is an autobiography, and I always began the study with a word web of the word autobiography. AUTO is a prefix in the Greek that means self. So you have things like autotroph and automobile. Bio means life, and any science teacher, especially a life science teacher, would be likely to teach this base. So you have words like biome and biodiversity and biodegradable. GRAPH is the most common of all of the Greek bases, and it means to write or to draw. You have a lot of GRAPH words in the language, words like calligraphy and paragraph and seismograph. words that all involve writing or drawing, because the base graph means to write or draw. Knowing this meaning and knowing how it applies to other words is a good way to build vocabulary, not just of words that kids are studying, but also words kids may encounter later on with these learned morphemes. The suffix y in this particular word indicates a noun. If you look at the meaning parts we've talked about, this is literally writing your own life, writing the life of oneself. That's what an autobiography means. And kids get interested in these meaning parts and how they apply to the word they're working on, but also other words you can discuss. An autograph, for example, is writing of your own self, writing your name, etc.